Good morning. I'm back in my office after 3 days of traveling and a trade show. And I wanted to share this story because even now, my blood is boiling about this. I mean, really boiling. I'm just making sure everybody can see I'm live and I'm appearing everywhere. Please do let me know and say hi in the chat. I want to talk to you about some guy I met on a trade show stand yesterday, and it made me so flipping angry. I was absolutely furious, and I wanted to really. I'm not a person who goes, I'm going to have a fight, but I really need to hit him. And, I'm not like that, so I'm not kind of going out brawling. That's not who I am and what I do. Good morning, Michelle. But I was really, really angry at him. And the backstory to this is we were doing a trade show at Excel the last 3 days. So I went down with the team and we met a whole load of people. And it was a really good show. And it was nice to be back, with all the buzz of people walking around. It was a really busy show and a really good show. But yesterday afternoon, this guy comes to our stand and we've got our usual banners there: get clients, grow faster, all that kind of stuff. And this guy comes to the stand and he says, "How could you help me?" So I was like, normally it's hello, but it was like, "How can you help me?" So I was like telling him what we did and I was talking to him. And then he said, "Oh, I'm a property deal sourcer." So I was like, "Oh, okay." I said, "So you're going to be very busy over the next few months because obviously if you're buying and selling properties coming off the market or packaging potential deals coming on the property market, there's going to be a lot of them people selling houses and stuff." So before I go any further, I do get the fact that business is ruthless and business is all of that stuff, and you know, I know how how it works. But then this guy goes, "I'm gonna make," I can't remember his exact word, but "I'm gonna make such a ton of money. People are gonna lose their houses, and I'm gonna make a lot of money." And there was a grin on his face, and it was a grin on his face as he said it, and I was absolutely, "Hi, Zoe. Hi, Michelle." I was fucking furious, right? I'm sorry, I'm gonna swear, and I know the algorithms won't like this, right? He was literally gleeful about the fact that some people are gonna be screwed over by a recession. He was literally rejoicing about it. His face was smiling, and he didn't stop either. He goes, "As other people are going down, their lives are going down the tube, I'm gonna make a ton of money." And there was this swagger and flipping arrogance about this guy. I was like, "You ugh." And he was like, "So how can you help me?" And the first time he asked me, I told him about us. The second time, I said, "We're B2B, and, yeah, so you're looking probably B2C, we're B2C, trying to, like, get rid of him." And he was like, "No, no, I sell to individuals who have businesses." And I was like, "Right, well, that's every business has an individual behind it." So I was like, "Good morning, Murad." So he says this, and then he goes, "Not these kind of individuals, these kind of individuals, not these kind of individuals, these kind of individuals, because 'cause I'm gonna make so much money. I'm gonna get people's homes, and I'm gonna turn them around, I'm gonna make a profit out of it, and I'm gonna make so much money." And I was like, I was like, "Oh, this is really annoying me." Um I get it. I do get it, right? I get the fact that when there's an economic downturn, some people lose. And I don't think, if somebody has to sell their house because they can't afford it anymore, I think, okay, that's the way the world works. But this person seemed to almost enjoy this. It was like, if I was in that world, and I'm not in that world, but if I was in that world and I was potentially making a big deal and I knew that there was human suffering and human misfortune on it, I would probably, even if I was gonna do that deal, I would try and restrain my excitement about the wealth I generated from it. I would try and at least have some human decency and not just say what I think. It was disgusting. It really was disgusting, and even now I'm angry about it. So he then talks to me and says, "So how can you help me?" And I just turned around to him and, "I can't help you." And I thought, if I took this guy's money, yeah, I didn't know what I could do for him at the time because I was so my brain had disconnected because I was just so flipping angry. And, I thought, "I would never take your money. I don't want anything to do with your money because, you know, lots of businesses make money in different ways. I'm not saying in immoral ways. I'm just saying, there is always a little bit of a business makes money from somebody's misfortune. One business grows and another doesn't. There's always that. But this guy seemed to love it, and he was like eating it up. And I don't know whether it's just the way the culture is now that we have this bravado that we just swagger around and try and look ruthless. But this guy, he was just awful. Um, and there is horrendous and difficult times coming, but I was just like, it's the closest I've ever come. It's the closest I've ever come. I've never started a fight in my life. Maybe at school. I've never started a fight, but it was the closest I'd come to wanting to. And it's just awful. And the reason I think it resonated so much with me is I've been in those kind of horrific times where it feels like everything's not working. And then to see somebody benefiting like that, or not even benefiting, because I accept the fact that, you know, if I don't do well, somebody else will. I accept that. But it was somebody who was just rejoicing in it, and it was just awe. And um, if that's where the way this culture is going of entrepreneurship, I don't want anything to do with it. It's just disgusting. Um, and I hope, actually, I'm gonna say it, I hope he loses everything for that because it was cruel. It was really cruel what he said. You know, I once sold a house when I was first when my first son was born. I sold a house because we didn't have the money to look after it. So maybe this is just me, it's catching a nerve, but the house needed a lot of work. My son was on his way, and we were like, "We can't afford this to get this house right." It was like a doer-upper. I'm not very skilled at DIY, as anybody who knows me knows that, but I was gonna have a go. But then when my oldest son was, we found out I was having a child, I was like, "I can't afford to do this house, look after him, and what if I can't do the house up?" And then we end up living in a kind of half-finished house with a baby. So I sold my house at the time to one of these done in 7 days thing because, it was kind of half finished. So it was like, it was gonna go on the market, so I did the whole done in 7 days thing. It wasn't 7 days, it was 8 weeks. It took 8 weeks to do it. Um, and just before we completed, just before it was all signed and everything, they tried to lowball us and drop the price. So it was a 3-bed end terrace, big house, but it needed a lot of work, not just decorating, work, new windows and things like that. And some of it had been done, and some of it hadn't been done. And I sold the house to one of these people, and it was supposed to be done quick, and it wasn't done quick. So I ended up living in another house whilst having this house because it was supposed to be done quickly, and it turned out not to be done quickly. So I ended up having 2 houses at once, which was even worse. And then literally, we're just about to do the kind of the exchange and completion, and and they said, "Oh, we're gonna drop out, unless you take 5 grand less." And I was like, I don't know, I'm not gonna swear again. But maybe it reminded me of that. Maybe it reminded me of that. But still, recession, I was talking to a few people yesterday, Um, Morning, Dennis. Uh, I was talking to a few people about the recession, and it is gonna be difficult, and some of we are gonna have to work harder just to stand still. That's the reality of it. We're gonna have to work harder to stand still. In good economic times, it feels like you can work a little bit easier, or you can get the results and the outcomes easier. And in a recession, you know, your offer of what you do as a business is gonna have to be sharpened up. You're gonna have to create a more compelling case. You're gonna have to market maybe a bit harder. You're gonna have to probably have more, sales conversations. So all your numbers might slip a little bit, in terms of, the effort to return. The ROI of all your activity might just be a little bit less because you'll have to do a bit more to do the same work or to achieve the same results, and I don't know, you might have more people sat on the fence. Um, Question: how far do you take morality versus business opportunity? Do you know what, Russell? That is such a tricky, um, question because it's relative. It's relative. And, on the way here, I was listening to, somebody talking about the whole FTX thing, where this crypto exchange has basically gone under, and it's all smoke and mirrors. And I I think, we're all here to make money, and we're all here to do the best for our families and all that kind of stuff. But inside each of us, we should have a line, and the problem is some people's line's in a different place. And I've watched, like, the FTX thing unfold, and it's like you can see that some people's line is just totally in a different space altogether. And do you know what? I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer, Russell, as to where the line is. What I know is generally we shouldn't be doing any harm. And that's like who's harmed? Are we going out with the best of intentions, and are we causing harm? That's probably it. Now, by that standard, that guy did nothing wrong, but his attitude was gleeful at other people's misfortune. And you see this in the stock markets all the time, companies having a rough ride and people betting against them. Yeah, but it's the same thing. Really, when you think about it, it's the same thing. Companies right now around the world, people with money are gambling and betting that other people lose money. And when it's companies, maybe it's different. Maybe it's different when it's faceless. But when it's like, okay, a human story, it's real. And I think that's the lesson of life, isn't it? And actually, when I'm talking to clients, I say the same thing. When you make it real for somebody, that's when it really connects. But when it's faceless, when it's impersonal, it doesn't matter. So the fact that, a hedge fund right now is probably shorting, some company that does employs loads of people, you know, they're gambling that they're gonna lose money or something like that, and they're betting their money that to make money, that somebody else loses money. When we say it like that, it doesn't seem as big a deal because it's impersonal, it's company and hedge fund or whatever. But when we go, "Actually, I'm gonna place a bet that you lose your house," and end up having to sell your house because 'cause you've got no money, it becomes evil, it becomes cruel, it becomes nasty. And that's, I think, the lesson is, it's when the human element comes out. So, let's say, for an example, hedge fund A hedge fund A decides to short against a company that causes a collapse, and then loads of people lose their jobs, and the media decides to report on the human stories of people who've lost their livelihoods, lost their homes, and all that kind of stuff because this hedge fund shorted that company. As soon as those human stories come out, it turns. The whole story would turn from a hedge funds are gambling that this company's gonna collapse. That's one thing. But as soon as those human stories come out, all the hate goes to that hedge fund, and that hedge fund is finished, um, if that happened. And I think that's the lesson here. As soon as we make it human, it becomes real. So I would ask, "Hi, Mayada." Um, I've got a really sore throat today. Um, but it did just annoy me, and I thought, "Do you know what? Rather than sit on this, because it's still lingering, I thought I'll tell everybody what happened and see whether it's just me." But it just felt he was gleeful. There was something about the way he was saying it that was like, "You don't care about those people." You know, at least if I was in that business, I'd be like, "Okay, this is my line of business. I'm gonna hunt down houses where basically the bank's pulling the house because they can't afford the payments, and what we do is we buy them." Maybe am I any different because I just don't mention the people? But he just mentioned the people, and that really angered me. Maybe it's 'cause my own experience. I don't know. But I think Russell, you've given me a question there that's gonna kind of sit there for me for a few days, I think. Where is where is the line? Let me see what Russell's actually said because 'cause he's gone into more. Oh, that's a good idea, Russell. Russell's just suggested, let me just read it out actually. In fact, Russell, I'll put it on screen because it's a good comment. Um, so this is what Russell said. How far it won't show it all. It won't show the full comment, which is really annoying, Russell. So let me read it. Um, a long time ago, he was shown a way of cleansing negativity associated with situations. Free, fast associate words on put them on a piece of paper for 30 to 60 seconds, then take great pleasure, more pleasure than his obsession with greed, to tear it up into 100 pieces and forget about the individual, turn him into space dust. Yeah, it's not a bad idea, actually. I say to people as well when I've said something similar about um, uh, when people have ideas or when people have concerns about something, to write them all down because the process of getting something out of your head is getting something out of your head. But I was listening to the budget as well, and I'm like, okay, it's going to be a bit brutal. It's going to be tough. And the weird bit, and I was talking to somebody maybe a week or so ago. The weird bit is 2008 was obviously really difficult. It was very difficult for me. 2008 was difficult, but I think it's something like 33% of the adult population today were children when that happened. So a vast swathe of the working population have never experienced an economic downturn of a recession. Now, COVID was way different because effectively you had governments protecting, putting the economy in cotton wool. So whilst we kind of had a downturn, we didn't have a downturn. We did, but we didn't. So we were kind of protected from it. But there's a couple of things I think are quite not interesting, but things that we should pay attention to is, um, a downturn or a recession obviously forces companies to be far more disciplined in the way that they spend money, and they manage things sharper and more efficient and all of that stuff. But I think a big chunk of the workforce, and I'm just gonna say this, one of the things about remote working, which I think is a mistake. I have no problem with remote working. We allow it if your job it works here, so you can work from home as long as you are contactable, you have enough broadband, all that kind of stuff, you can do it. But one of the things that I think is gonna bite a lot of people in the butt over working from home is, especially in a recession, companies gonna try and go, we need to trim our cost base. We need to slim things down. We need to be more cautious. We need to slim down. And when the economy's going well and a business is going well, you add things in that when in a recession, you probably go, "Well, we don't need it, we don't need it, we don't need it." Is if you're working from home and you've got a hybrid business where you've got, say, I don't know, 50 people who work in the office and 25 of people who work remote, the problem is when it comes to rationing and trim downs, a lot of the work that people do from home, and I'm not saying you don't work, by the way, don't take it away. You are invisible. You are invisible to the business. So just by human nature, because we observe somebody coming into the office, I'm not saying this is fair, but it will play a factor in a lot of decision making. Just because you're visible and in the office versus invisible, there will be a bias of this person, we need this person because they're there. And some people, in a recession, if a company's looking to lose jobs, I'm pretty certain some people are gonna lose their job, not because they weren't doing the work, but not because they weren't good at their job, not because they were, anything else other than when it comes down to a decision, they were the least visible. And so there's a perception, there's the distance, there's all of that stuff. Um, it's just my take on it. I could be totally wrong. I just think, if you're more visible, it could be an asset to you as a company starting to, look at trimming costs and, cutting headcount. But I didn't come on to talk about that really. I came on to talk about this silly little man, and I hope he makes no money, um, for the comments that he said. Um, human human decency is even if you thought that, you would never say it. So the fact that he thought it and said it either makes him very stupid or very greedy. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, it's Friday. Hope you've all had a good week. My voice is really sore. I've been talking to people for 2 and a bit days. Look, I hope you've had a good week. It's Friday. Enjoy the weekend. I will be back on Monday. I'm trying to get into a rhythm with the live, so I might not do them every day because I don't want to just come on and talk about random stuff. Well, it is random, really. I don't want to just come on and kind of think up something. I want to come on because I've got something to say, and I want your opinions on it. It's probably not about growing a business, this one. Well, it kind of is. It's about the morality of growing a business. Yeah, so have a great weekend, everybody. I'll see you Monday. And yeah, enjoy your weekend.
Dean's strategy helped me find clients. I created clients for my business with this program. It works.
My connections have grown, my reach has grown, my views have grown, and actually so has my business revenue. Over that 3-month period, I have actually signed up 3 new clients at a cost of £50,000. That's over just the 3-month period. So it's worth it.
Every single time there's a session, I just feel like it's just a golden moment. Every single session brings me something really new and really valuable, and I've started to attract high value client sales, which is wonderful, and it's really given our business a boost.
Dean Seddon and the Maverick team, what can I say? Apart from absolutely awesome.
The results have been amazing. We have had loads of incoming leads coming into our lead funnels and workflow processes on our website. And we've also built a really successful community around the content that we produce and push out into our LinkedIn channels. My team has also learned a lot from working with the team at Maverick, and they've also helped us really create fantastic events on LinkedIn.
I'm much more confident, and all of that, without a shadow of a doubt, is down to the work and the training and support I've had from Dean and the rest of his team as part of the Accelerator course.
In terms of the training, Maverick have been absolutely fantastic. They've been so supportive. They've talked me through all the stages of what you have to do, why you have to do it, the benefits of doing it the way they tell us to do it. And I've gone from being with no social media to being actually addicted, because I can see what this can do